Hi everybody. This is an interesting development here. It was brought to my attention recently that Dan Needle, following my forensic research that I sent to Dan Needle in relation to Simon Goldberg and his 1099 OID filings, which he openly admits in his own witness statements that he's put into various court cases where he's acting as a prosecutor in private criminal prosecutions against various parties. He's actually admitted in these witness statements that he's been basically operating a 1099 OID scheme for members of Empower the People that want to file 1099 OID. But they're doing it all wrong, as I explained on my webinar yesterday. What Simon Goldberg is doing, he is collecting all the necessary documents and information from Empower the People members. He's then filing paper 1099 OID and 1040 tax forms to the IRS from receiving all of these details and documents from his Empower the People members into a PO box in Essex, and then that's from there it's dispatched to the IRS. Of course, Simon Goldberg doesn't put his name on anything. He's like the anonymous tax filer, but he doesn't have a license to do it. And when his Empower the People members get any return, any recoupment from the IRS, then Simon Goldberg shares 13% or wants 13% at the back end. People pay an upfront fee. I think it's 1,500. I think it is. And then if anybody is successful, of which some people have been, or they've got a recoupment check, they haven't actually been successful because there's a significant risk that recoupment check will be clawed back as a result of the fact that Simon Goldberg doesn't have a license to file tax returns. He doesn't have a tax preparer license, and he's doing it all on paper. And he pretends that the expert that understands it is a character. It's a fictional character that he's made up called Paul 𝐒𝐿. And basically, all of this evidence and much more, including Simon Goldberg's annual general meetings, which have all been recorded, exactly what he's been saying and how he's been saying it, where he's actually openly admitting that he has filed these 1099 OIDs, which effectively is a RICO fraud, meaning that it's defrauding the United States government. And it is also wire fraud because he's putting these fraudulent tax recoupment claims into the post, which makes it a wire fraud. Others have gone to jail for a long period. The most recent case was a guy who went to jail for 9 years, a Canadian fella who was doing exactly this. It's all documented in various other documents that I've published. Anyway, all of this was sent to Dan Needle, and lots of evidence was sent to him, and he published a website which I'm going to show you now. He published this Tax Policy Associates website, which is this is Simon Goldberg here, and then you've got all of this evidence here that Dan Needle has put together on this website. Much of it has come from my research. This is various meetings and recordings of what Goldberg is saying, etc. These are all the evidence that the IRS could ever need to investigate this and probably to put together a case in the United States, and Simon Goldberg would almost certainly be jailed in the United States for what he's been doing. It's all here. All the evidence is here of exactly what Simon Goldberg's doing, how he's doing it. It's all on here. Now, the interesting thing about this is that most of this information and evidence was put together following my submission or 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐧 submission. It was my research, but 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐧 sent all of this to Dan Needle, and he published all of this, which is quite an extraordinary detail. You know, I take my hat off to Dan Needle for putting all this together. It's so much content here, so much evidence of what Simon Goldberg is doing, why it's fraud, why it's RICO fraud, why it's wire fraud, etc. Why what he's doing doesn't work, because he basically is he's filing from the debtor. The citizen can't file for 1099 OID tax recoupment. Only a creditor can. Only a nominee that's been set up in the right way. I explain all that on my webinars and in my technical documents at 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐧 and in various other guides that I've published. And there is a right way to do it and a wrong way, and Simon Goldberg is absolutely doing it the wrong way. And it's very, very serious, not just for Simon Goldberg, but for anybody at 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE that is engaged and enrolled in this program. Basically, those people who are doing this have been induced into a RICO and wire fraud, and it's a very serious matter. And if anybody has had a cheque from the IRS, that cheque is under threat of being drawn back by the IRS, and it's not going to end well for Simon Goldberg and the 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE members. Now, I'm offering through the Republic of Old Souls and our lawful way of doing 1099 OID, I'm offering 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE members, they can cancel all of their filings that Simon Goldberg has done if they haven't already had a check, and then they can do it the correct way. There will be whatever they've paid 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE. There will be a credit note to set off against the Republic of Old Souls lawful way of doing it, where we've had 600 million of confirmed recoupments in 2025, and basically you've got a solution there for the 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE members. But the interesting thing I thought people would be interested in is has Dan Needle been doing this because he wants to pick up a reward? Because here we have, in I think this section just coming up here, there is a reward of up to 30% for anybody who is blowing the whistle. And I think there is a section here, just trying to find it. Yeah, that's the case. 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐧 jailed for 9 years, and it's obviously that's exactly the same as Simon Goldberg has been doing. Simon Goldberg in this section here of this report, he's admitting all of these things. It's quite extraordinary. I've never seen anything as stupid as this, where somebody's actually admitting to RICO and wire fraud in witness statements that they've sent into the UK court system. Quite extraordinary how anybody could be so stupid. Simon Goldberg claims that he's a guru and an expert, but obviously he's not in relation to this matter. At least he's basically admitting to fraud. And here we are. This is the section here. The IRS offers whistleblowers 15 to 30% of any amount that they get back. So that would be the amounts that 𝐕𝐴MPOWER_THE_PEOPLE members have received in any recoupment checks. The IRS draws those back, and then they pay up to 30% of it to the whistleblower. So interesting is this why